change,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, it's really amazing because we think that we can go and isolate ourselves and then work on ourselves. And you can't. Like the
No.
only way that the flaws inside ourselves are revealed to us is through relationship. And we will see it most closely with our spouse and our kids because that's where we go and we take our mask off. You know, a lot of people will wear a mask in the world, but then when you come home and you kind of let your hair down and you become yourself, that's not a good thing. And that's very confusing for kids. If you are this super charismatic person and you're so respected and kind to everybody that you work with and whatever else, and then you go home and you're like the worst version of yourself with your kids and your family, that's not a good look.
No, that's hypocrisy at its finest right there.
Yeah.
That's wow.
And then you can't be surprised when your kids don't want to have a relationship with you when you're older.
Yeah, they have nothing to do with you. You're on your deathbed asking for them to come see because those are your only kids, and they turn around and say, "Nope, I
Yeah.
don't want nothing to do with you." And it's sad because I say that because I've heard of stories like that,
Yeah.
tons of stories like that.
It's also interesting because we think also that during discipline or training, we need to lecture.
I'm guilty of that.
You can be long-winded, man.
Lecture mode for sure, and I try to drive my point home. And this is this, and this, and this is the consequence. But anyhow, back to what you're saying.
Lecturing is it's not beneficial. Your kids aren't listening to what you're saying, and it basically is just trying to drive home shame for what they did.
I really wanted to drive home that point to them
Mhm.
so they wouldn't do it again. Subconsciously, I felt like they weren't getting it,
Mhm.
right? In that moment, they weren't. You're not going to hear anything if your heart rate's over 98.6 beat or 98.6, 99 beats per minute, right? Physically can't hear at that moment when I'm yelling at them. They're not listening to me. And then I get offended of it because I feel like, well, they're not listening to me. It's like, well, duh, you're yelling at them and you're lecturing. I get offended and it just starts this big old crazy cycle.
You can't train somebody to do something by yelling at them.
When you're yelling, you're just showing everyone that you yourself are confused.
Yeah, I agree with that. You're either confused or you're just bugged that you're having to take time out of to do it right. Training takes real discipline. Raising your kids means that you need to sacrifice your own time. Parents get mad because they want to look on their phone and the kid needs help
Their
with
homework.
something. So they go and they decide to do it on their own and they're doing it wrong. Nobody took the time to show them. If your kid is hungry, they go and decide to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But then there's jelly all over the counter because they don't know to use a spoon. They got a butter knife. They just made like a huge mess. Or they poured themselves some milk. The milk carton was too heavy and it overflowed and it went everywhere. Or they got in the cabinet to get a cup and they dropped the glass on the floor. Mom or dad come in yelling, "How can I help you? What did you need, honey?"
Yeah, and the kid's confused. The kid knows he's going to get in trouble. He knows he made a mistake. And now we're reinforcing that he's not good enough by yelling at him.
They're confused because they have needs. They're going to always have needs. And we're too selfish as parents to get off our butt and
That's that
or
part of
teach them.
that's what falls back to what you said, what they're owed.
Yeah, they're owed us like we need to be there to train them in a nice way, like
Yeah.
the way you would with a new employee. You're not going to yell at your employee for dropping. Some people do. There are some horrible bosses out there. And, most people don't quit jobs, they quit bosses. But the thing about kids is they can't quit their family.
Yeah, they didn't ask to be born.
You know what I mean? They cannot pay you back anything. If you make your kid feel like they need to repay you, it's just wrong.
I'm guilty of that. I was having car trouble and I got upset. Well, if I'd have just went home, I wouldn't have this problem. I could have been home already. And the car would have been messing up at
Mhm.
the house, not, you know what I mean? Not here because I came out of my way to pick you up. And now that message is being sent to her that, hey, guess what? I'm not worthy.
Mhm.
I'm not cherished. This car is more important than me.
Yes. Yeah. If you're having problems with your kid, like dealing with suicidal thoughts, you might be sending out some subliminal messages that your life would be better without them. and that's not a good thing. And usually that is rooted in selfishness.
Parenting is the uncanny ability, and I used to say this a lot, but now that we're talking about it, it came back, right? Parenting really shows you how selfish you are.
It does, and that's why people get angry with their kids instead of looking at themselves and saying, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't be so selfish. Is being on the phone really that important? Is my truck really that important?" You need to, really look at what your kid needs and what you owe to them. You know what I mean? Parents start being angry with their kids and not holding themselves accountable for the way they're treating their kids. And they're start developing this like contempt towards their children. There are parents out there that don't favor one certain child, or if you have those types of dynamics in your
Mhm,
family where you're favoring certain kids and you have contempt towards
mhm.
another kid, there's something going on inside yourself.
Absolutely, and you usually see that with strong-willed kids. It's a pleasure to have a child that does everything you ask them to do.
Mhm.
Doesn't misbehave, does their homework, doesn't backtalk, everything. But it's those strong-willed kids, you know? Any parent who's ever disciplined or has raised a strong-willed child can say, so there's some days you're like, man, why do I have this kid? Life would be so much easier if I just had this other kid who did everything that I asked. That strong-willed child is a natural born leader.
Mhm.
And that's what the world needs today.
Yes.
We need those little kids that are natural born leaders because not everybody's a leader. But these children are the ones who have been born to question authority, to ask the questions, why, the reason why behind things. And that's what they're doing. They in their minds, they don't understand. It's not making sense to them. Why is daddy asking me to do this? This doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
And they're questioning because that's what God placed inside them. And then we take offense to that, get upset, flip out, get mad, wish they were never born.
Yeah.
And it's true. I mean,
Yeah.
as harsh as it may sound, I mean, that's what's going on through a lot of people's minds
Yeah.
at
Yep.
that moment. You know what I
Definitely.
mean?
I know a lot of moms feel very stressed out about motherhood, and I think a lot of that